Hi, my name's Erin. Welcome to Resilient Voices podcast again. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Lynn Lewis. This is my little guy, Romeo. So Lynn is a certified grief educator, is the visionary and chief empathy officer for Destined to Thrive Grief Coaching. She's a speaker and an author. After her son's death in August 2019, Lynn Lewis made the choice not to be consumed by her grief or her tragic loss. Lynn readily shares her grief story. I choose to live in the aftermath. She talks about how she strives daily to keep moving forward, why she does it, and the positive impact self-love has on how she manages grief. She supports adults who are ready to move forward with living meaningful and impactful lives despite having experienced the loss of a loved one. Lynn is the co-author of Prepare for Purpose, Your Invitation to the Next Level, and an author of My Suicide Grief Journey, Journal and Memory Book. She's happily retired from the automobile claim industry with 39 years of service and resides in North Chesterfield, VA, Virginia, with her husband, Keith D. Lewis. For more information, go to Destined to Thrive griefcoaching.com, and I will be sharing the link in the notes and also to Lynn's Instagram and Facebook. And so without further ado, let's welcome beautiful Lynn.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you, Lynn, for joining me today. You look gorgeous in this yellow and you look beautiful and happy and radiant, and I'm so excited that we're here together chatting. So
Well, Erin,
please.
thank you so much for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm happy for you to where you are on your journey, and thank you so much for having me as one of your podcast guests. So, you mentioned the yellow. So I kind of chuckle at myself now because I like yellow. I get so many compliments when I'm wearing it. But in my earlier years, I did not like yellow on me. And um, but when I set up my website for my grief coaching, I wanted the dandelion. And I thought of the dandelion because of what it represents. It's medicinal. It grows in so many different environments. It thrives, not just grow, but it thrives. Peeps through the cement, any space it can find in the cement between the rocks. Um, in a bunch of grass that just looks like sometimes dead grass and weeds, and there will be a dandelion. And I love seeing that when I'm on my walks, and I always take a picture. And I remember growing up, I grew up in a rural area, and we had dandelions, and we would pick them and take them to our mother or put them in our hair and stuff like that. And she actually made wine from dandelions. So of course we weren't old enough to drink it, but she made it. But anyway, just the dandelion, what it represents, and for my grief coaching, Destined to Thrive, that is about being able to thrive and adapt and become resilient despite having endured a tragic loss. And so that's the dandelion. And then also on my website, there's the bee that's landing on the dandelion. And I chose the bee because a bee, when they have something to do, they zero in on it, they focus in on it. And regardless of what's going on around them, they focus in on what they are doing. And on a grief journey, we get to a point to learn we got to take care of ourselves. We got to disassociate with some things and some people, and we got to focus in on what's at hand. How do we survive? How do we thrive in the aftermath of such trauma?
That
And for
is so
me, it's
beautiful.
suicide trauma, but regardless, whatever type of trauma. But so yeah, that's the dandelion and the bee in the yellow.
I love it. It is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I love it. Thank you. All right, so let's get back to the question that I'd aligned for you. So please tell me about your suicide journey. And first of all, who did you lose? I know myself, but I don't, everybody else doesn't always know.
I lost my favorite man child, and that was my one and only child, my son. And he was 30 at the time. So, and that was August 4th, 2019.
And
So
what was
that,
his
and I
name?
always called him my favorite man
I
child, and he
know,
would
I
say,
love
"Mom,
that.
I'm your only child." But yeah, you're my favorite though.
I love that. It's Daniel, right?
Daniel,
Yeah,
yeah, Daniel
yeah.
Brooks Lewis.
Oh, I love that. Beautiful name. Okay, so please tell us your grief journey. What happened? You don't have to tell about, well, tell us a little bit about Daniel. Tell us about how he lived his beautiful life. I always like to focus on how they lived their lives rather than how we lost them, because that's just a blip in history.
Oh, exactly, exactly. As I mentioned, Daniel was my husband's only child. He was 30 at the time he passed away, and at that time he was a professional firefighter and EMT. Daniel didn't show up for work one day, being July 29th, 2019. He did not show up for his shift. We were not expecting him to show up because he told us that he had some business to attend to and that he had gotten someone to cover his shift. And so we were surprised when my husband received a call from his crew saying, "Hey, Daniel didn't show up. That's not like him. Have you heard from him?" And we knew at that point something wasn't right because, like I said, we weren't expecting him to show up. They were. And as a firefighter, unless there's an emergency, you don't just not show up. And he didn't. They said even if he was going to be a little bit late, he always called because he lived an hour from work. Um, but that so he was missing from July 29th. We did not know where he was. He did not contact anybody that we know of. There was um, no record of him talking to anyone, from his phone records. And then we got a visit on Sunday night, August 4th, from the authorities, from the fire department and the police department, saying that he had been found. They have been notified that he had been found in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is about 5 hours from where we live in the Richmond, Virginia area. And so that was that. It was a surprise. Um, of course, there was no note, and I say of course because from what I have learned over these almost 6 years, that more likely than so, people don't leave notes. Um, so he didn't leave any note, and he didn't have any children. So my husband and I were the ones that had to take care of everything. So that's my story. But as you mentioned, Aaron, I I decided that I was not going to carry that weight by myself. It was too heavy. I had the group therapy, I had the support group, I had the individual therapy, but it was just too much. It was just too much for me to carry by myself. So I made a choice early on that I was going to live in the light of his life. And that I was not only going to just survive, I was going to thrive. And of course, it was just 7 months after he passed. So, of course, my emotions were still raw and all of the things. I had no idea what that would look like, how I would do it. But it was just a determination like, I'm not going to carry this by myself. I'm not going to be consumed. And this sounds ugly to probably to some people, but I was not going to die with my child. And I wanted to do something in hopes that, well, I say my superpower is that no other mother, no other family, no other dad would have to know what like we know, Aaron, that know that pain that isolation, the embarrassment, all of that stuff, the why, the big why question that looms forever. So I just started searching around and I came upon grief coaching in my internet searches, and I decided to get a certification as a grief coach. And then later last year in 2024, I did David Kessler's Certified Grief Educator program. And so I've been doing that now. It's not been easy. It's still what it is, but I'm choosing to live. I'm choosing to move forward. I'm choosing to tell the story as because I believe that my story is a life jacket to someone who feel like they are drowning. I feel like my story, hearing my story, will be the solution to someone's problem who's saying, "What do I do? How do I do it?" I believe that my story could be somebody's painkiller, that the pain is so raw until they think that they can't make it. But if they hear my story and that I am making it, hopefully that will make a difference for them. And so until I'm convinced otherwise, I'm going to keep on telling my gut-wrenching, heartbreaking story.
I love that, Lynn. That's like so beautiful. And it's so, so true. Like you've got a gift to share with the people and with so many moms. You know what? I know you and I started our grief journey. I was a year ahead of you, and I looked at you and I always saw you smiling, and I thought, no, what the hell, this woman. I don't even remember how we got into each other's circle, but
Um,
we did.
I know through Melissa.
Yes, 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 that's right.
Through
Yeah,
Melissa, that's how, because
yeah,
she somehow we connected there because we were
yeah,
both kind of in her circle.
yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Hmm.
And I could just sense your joy that you like. I don't know how she got this smile on her face, how she could always be. Yes, I could feel your pain, but I couldn't understand. I mean, I could relate to the pain totally, but I couldn't relate to how you could still smile, could still move on with life. I just couldn't grasp it. And I was a year behind you, no, ahead of you, because Dakota left in
Ahead. Hmm.
20, yeah, Dakota left in 2018. And I just couldn't figure out now, how is this woman doing this? How is this woman doing this? Um, and watching you grow and move, I mean, it's inspired me. I know that. Like, yeah, you've inspired me because you actually you exude joy, you exude the happiness, and I
Yeah, well,
think,
thank you.
yeah, it's you do. So you've inspired me. So I know that. So I know that you can inspire lots of people too. So I love that.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So what do you,
you mentioned joy. I remember the night that we got the news and it was around 10 p.m. And of course, we had to call some people, family, and because family and church family and friends had been, waiting with us those whole 6 days. And I remember laying on my friend's chest and standing in my kitchen and saying, I am not going to allow this to still take my joy, my peace, nor my mind. And Aaron, I was in a stupor. I was in shock. I remember saying that, but I have been able to maintain that through many ups and downs, through many ebbs and flows, but I'm always able to come back. The other thing that I came to know and understand, and you may be able to relate to this too, is that joy and sorrow can coexist. Just because we are smiling, just because we're enjoying a vacation, just because we are having some fun, what I say about my sorrow is it's always playing in the background.
oh,
It's
totally. Yeah,
always
totally.
there. Yeah. So that's
But
how
I
I'm
would
able to smile.
Yeah, but you know what? Your smile is not fake. Yes, I can see
Oh,
the
it's
pain in
not.
your eyes, but I can still see the joy that you're exuding. So I love that. Um, yeah, you know what? I feel we know where our kids are, our children. I feel Dakota's with Jesus. For me, Dakota's with Jesus, and that gives me a lot of peace just to feel okay. And I mean, I'm sure you feel, oh, Daniel is with Jesus, and that helps with our joy and our peace, I think. It's taken me a long time to get, a bit more happy, a bit more, okay, this is life, this is life. Let's enjoy
Mhm.
it. I'm choosing to live in the light of Dakota's light. And yeah, so, all right. What does it mean to be a chief empathy officer? I love that. That is so cute.
I stole that from someone who had stole it from someone else.
I love it.
So, chief executive officer, that just sounds so businesslike.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it's a real thing, and we
Mm,
do have businesses in a sense. Well, and we do have
yes.
businesses, but I was talking to a young man that I met, kind of like I met you, just I had been on someone's show and he liked it or made a comment. And he also made a comment about him having a book coming out soon. Well, I'm a book person too. So my comment was, thank you. And please post when your book comes out. And obviously he had looked at my website or listened to the interview because he said, and I like tea too. And I was like, oh. And he's in Canada. And I said, we must have a virtual tea. And so when we had our virtual tea the first time, he talked about being the chief empathy officer for his I think it's his and his wife started an organization. And I said, oh, I'm taking that because one of the things that I remember Coach Dora saying to us that in doing grief work, all of the degrees, all of the certifications, but empathy more than likely will trump that. You have to be empathetic to do this type of work. And and some days, Aaron, my empathy meter just goes off the charts. I mean, it just goes off the charts. And so that's why I'm the empathy officer. I'm the chief empathy officer for Destined to Thrive Grief Coaching Service.
I
But
love it.
yeah, this young man, his name is Joe. He was a two-time suicide survivor by the time he was 10 years old.
Oh, that's tragic.
And he's mid 40s now. And so it took him, he said, about 10 years to write the story, but he wrote the story. Book came out last year, and phenomenal young man. And I look at him like you talked about my smile. I look at him and I just wonder how, even though it's been 35, 30 some years ago, but just the radiance that he exudes. And one of the things that when we talked, or he wrote in his book, he said, I never wanted to die of all of the pain and alcoholism and all of that he went through. He said, but I really still never wanted to die. And but he's a phenomenal young man, and I follow him. I'll have to share the
Yes.
name of the book. I'll share it in the group
Yeah,
because,
please
his
do.
story is different, but it's still suicide. It's still,
Yeah,
this young man lost both his parents in separate incidents, but both his parents by the time he was 10.
tragic. Wow. Yeah, there's so much pain in the world. I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. I really am. Please tell us about your books and the name of
Oh,
them.
my book.
And
So, I wrote a book last year. Well, I did write it. It's a journal slash memory book. And that was what I did in memory of my son last year in 2024. And it's called My Suicide Journey journal and memory book. It's on Amazon. And so it's divided up into parts where I have prompts. I have space that you can freehand write. There's space for you to put pictures or just cards or whatever. There are resources listed, quotes, some of which are my original quotes. So it's just a nice little resource to kind of have your things together because I figured if I'm like this, some other people are too, and that is I will have a book over here with notes and a drawer over here with cards and stuff. So this kind of gives you a place to put your things and when you're missing your children, you can or whomever, your loved one, there's it's kind of like a photo album. Like
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
back in the
yeah, yeah.
yesteryear when we used to have photo albums and
Yes, I
scrapbooks
love those.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, you can sit and just kind of go through, you can write notes or whatever. So I did that in his memory last year. That was my solo project. A few years before that, I did an anthology with 9 other phenomenal women,
Mhm.
and that's called Prepare for Purpose, Your Next Level, an invitation to your next level. And I was the only one that wrote about a grief story, by death. But it is still a good book because, um, of course, people have all kinds of life changes, and so there are different stories. There's a story about a young lady who was in the military at the time. She had her son born on the autism spectrum, so she talks about working through that and giving up her career. There was one who went blind in one eye, and just it's a plethora of different types of stories. But I wrote about my grief story, so it was up to 3 years by that time, and really choosing to thrive and how I do it. And so, I think I may have sent you the link. If I didn't, I will, so you can put it in the notes,
Yes,
if
I will.
anybody's interested in getting it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm going to share it in our Angel Mom group too, this whole thing. So, yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So, life perspectives. What are daily practices or rituals that you do daily to keep yourself grounded and moving forward?
Um, I have embraced self-love, and I say I practice self-love unapologetically. And practicing self-love, it's beyond getting the manicure or the pedicure. I do those things regularly, but it is, despite having experienced such tragedy in my life, it is taking the time to check in with myself. Naps have become my friend these days. If my body is feeling tired and feeling like you need to rest, I don't, excuse me, I don't, fight it. I don't feel embarrassed if I say, you know what, I took a 30-minute nap today. So taking naps, um, I've gotten back into taking regular walks. Um, Being in community helps me. And when I say in community, that may be just having a conversation, meeting someone to have a conversation, even phone conversations, they help me because we often text these days. I like having a conversation, um, and doing things that of course, having that cup of tea with a friend, but doing things that just makes me feel good. It may be putting on a bright colored shirt or putting on some lipstick that day. Just so I want your listeners to be mindful that self-love is not being selfish. It is just thinking highly of yourself enough to take care of yourself and so that you can take care of others, that you can share others. And those of us who do grief work, we've got to take care of ourselves. I still write sometimes, and now I'm a part of a year-long coaching program, and it's only four of us in the program, and we've really bonded, keeping each other accountable and just, having those little talks. And we meet, of course, every other week. So, just I love community. That helps me.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, so what other projects have you got coming up, or shouldn't I ask yet?
So as a part of that coaching group, we had to write an anthology. So I just released my chapter last week. So that book will be available in around September. And so my chapter is titled um, Prior, Prioritizing My Potential, and it talks about how pressing through the process produced resiliency. And so that's my chapter, just talking about how, having how I got to have this business is from a tragedy, but then having to, balance those things and just keep pressing through. And, the days and the months that was too sad to do the work and all of that. So that's coming out in September. Um, I am going to do Grief Awareness Day on August 30th. So that's going to be a small event because I don't know if I know it's national. I don't know if it's worldwide, but not suicide, Grief Awareness Day has been recognized on August 30th. And I've forgotten how many years when it started, but I think it's been at least 10 years. But anyway, it's called Grief Awareness Day. So I'll be hosting that in my hometown on August 30th. So
Lovely.
you'll see more
Wow.
about that. Um, yeah, so that's my main two things that's happening right now that I can talk about.
Nice, nice.
I
That's
do
good.
have on May 13th, I'm doing a Zoom gathering, and it is about self-love because May is Women's Health Month, and it's also in that month it's Women's Health Week. And so
Oh,
during that week, I'm going to do a Zoom gathering, and we're going to talk about how self-love it matters to us. It should matter to us as we
yeah.
move, because their theme that week is moving forward together. And so we'll talk about how we can encourage each other to take care of ourselves and in order to be able to move forward in whatever your arena is.
Mhm, mhm. I love that. I love that. Well, Lynn, we've got to wind this up. Are there any books or anything else we'll recommend? I would recommend your books. I haven't read them yet. I'm sorry. I take so long to read a book. And I'm just more into my yoga books right now.
That's
Anything,
okay.
but I'll put your
One
books.
I would recommend one, and it's the young man's book that I talked about. It's called Remixed, and it's by Joe um, Lyons Rising, and
Okay.
it can be heart-wrenching because when I read it, it was from this 10-year-old boy telling his story and not the grown man that he
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Of course, being a mom and a mom of a son, I just wanted to and I told him, I said, I just want to hug that 10-year-old Joe. So I recommend his book if just to kind of give other insight. Um, mm, that's one of the last ones that I read. I'm getting ready to read The Grieving Brain.
But that's
I
good.
haven't gotten into that. Have you read that?
100 years ago. Probably don't remember all
Okay.
of it, but I know that we've got a lot of issues with our brain.
Yes.
And yeah, it just takes time. Just keep time. And I'm looking at it from a yogic perspective. So I'm trying to do like Ayurvedic cleaning, cleansing, taking care of my brain, cutting things out, things like that. Yeah. So. Brilliant book.
Yeah,
Yeah. Any
yeah.
podcasts you would recommend?
I recommend Melissa's
I
podcast,
love Melissa's.
oh my
Left
goodness, the
leftover
leftover
pieces.
pieces.
Yeah,
The
yeah, that's right.
leftover pieces. I recommend hers. There is one, oh goodness, oh goodness. I've been on so many podcasts, but this young lady, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I think it's Heart to Heal. Let me see.
Okay.
She was, mm, that one comes to mind. Mm, she's actually she's in West Virginia, which is
Oh,
another state away from me. We're like 7 hours away. And I just watched some of her show last night, but she has um, it's about grief, but it's not only suicide, kind of like yours will be, I'm thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
I cannot recall it at the moment. There is another one called he's not recording right now, but it's called All That We Carry, All the Things That We Carry. And so that's a good one too. That's kind of he's a retired firefighter, but also dealing with the grief that comes from that, as well as the
Yeah.
death of his mom. Um, Second Chance is another one. Second Chance with Jeff
Have you listened
Robertson. So I've been on a bunch of.
have you listened to Marcy Larson? Always Andy's mom. I will send you
Oh
that.
yeah. Now
I
I
love hers.
I just heard about Andy's mom because another lady that she has a similar story. Her story is very similar to your story with the daughter and the drugs, but and she told me about Andy's mom, so I've just started following her,
Yeah, Marcy, I
Andy's
love
mom.
Marcy. Love Marcy. She's
Yeah.
fabulous.
Is
Anyway,
there's
when
Andy's mom? Is that Marcy? Is that her
yes,
name?
Marcy
Oh, okay.
Larson. Yeah, yeah. I'll send it
Okay.
to
I
you as
just
well.
remember Andy's mom.
Yeah, and I'm going to send you about the yellow too. But I've got to end off now, and it's been so lovely chatting to you. And I love you, Lynn. Thank you so much for sharing. And
Thank
I
you,
really, really
Erin.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You take care, beautiful lady.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm pausing the thing. It's going to end. This is going to end in about 2 minutes, Lynn. But thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, you